Good day, everyone. My name is Joshua Tienzo of Emmaus Learning Center, and today we'll be talking about the fundamental and often critical part of quantitative research design, which is sampling strategies and their implication. So, as doctoral students, we know that the decisions we make at the beginning of our research is like how we select our participants, and with that that will determine the strength and the validity of the entire study. So doon nakasalalay ang lahat. And our goal for today is to provide a clear overview. So we'll be just tackling the overview of the major sampling approach, and that will help us to think critically about the impact of uh, that approaches to our dissertation researches, most importantly. So bakit nga pala importante ang sampling? So why is sampling so important sa ating mga research? So simply because sampling is the process of selecting a small representative group of from the much larger population. So hindi mo kunin lahat. So it's just the representative group. And the core goal of quantitative sampling is to get the sample that is accurately reflects the characteristic of the larger population. So with the minimum with the minimal group na kinuha natin, makukuha natin kung ano ba yung temperature, ano ba yung makukuha nating data for with the response from the larger population. So if we get this right, we can confidently generalize our findings from our sample back to the population. So if we get it wrong, baliktad naman yung mangyayari. Our conclusions may not be valid. So we have two main families of sampling to consider. Number one is the probability sampling, and number two is the non-probability sampling. So let's start with the one that gives us the most confidence in our findings. Probability sampling is considered the gold standard, yung pinaka-importante, pinaka-valuable, or simply lahat ginagamit, majority ginagamit dito for the quantitative research, probability sampling. So the key principle here is that every single individual in your target population has a known non-zero chance of being selected. So this is the only way to minimize selection bias and make strong statistical inferences. First, we have the simple random sampling. This is the most basic form where everyone has an equal chance. So imagine drawing names from a hat, kukuha ka ng mga selection. So it's very fantastic for minimizing bias. But can be difficult and costly for large population. Lugi ka kung napakalaki ng population mo. So that's for simple random sampling. Number two is the stratified sampling. So this is an excellent choice when you need to ensure your sample accurately reflects specific subgroups, kung marami kang subgroups na hinahanap in the current population. So you divide the population into strata based on the characteristics like gender, age, socioeconomic status, and then you randomly sample from within each of those strata. So, ano ba yung ginagaranti nito? This guarantees proportional representation. So, hindi siya masyadong biased kasi may mga strata per strand. Then, the third one, then there's cluster sampling. So, if your population is spread out, so like students in different schools across the state, so majority of us is nasa sa public schools. So for me napaka-importante ng tamang sampling para dito kasi nga sobrang dami, sobrang laki ng population. So kung masyadong spread out yung population natin, like students nga across state or across provinces, you can't possibly sample from every school. So anong gagawin natin? So you divide the population into geographical clusters, randomly select a few of those clusters, and then you study everyone within those selected clusters. So it's more efficient, but however, it can introduce a little more sampling error kasi nga masyadong clusterized nga. Kaya from the word cluster sampling. Then finally, we have the systematic sampling. This is a straightforward method wherein we will be selecting participants at a regular fixed interval from a list. For example, every 10th person on a student roster, pang 10, yun yung kukunin mo. Okay? So it's simpler than simple random sampling. But you have to be very careful that there isn't an underlying pattern in the list that could bias your result. So kung masyadong malaki yung population mo, siguro mas okay. Pero kung masyadong konti, kunyari 20 yung population sa isang classroom, maliit lang, no? Tapos namili ka pang 10, pang 15. So there's a possibility na magkaroon ng underlying pattern dun sa makukuha natin. Now let's look at non-probability sampling. So these methods are called this because the selection is not random. So not everyone has a known chance of being included. So this means hindi tayo pwedeng mag-generalize as we can with probability sampling. However, these methods are often more practical and useful, especially for if you are exploring something, or your research is for exploring, or when a list of the entire population isn't available, wala kang exact data for that. So first is the convenience sampling. So this is the easiest and the most common type. You simply use participants yung mga ready na, who are readily available and willing to participate, such as serving students in your own class. So it's great for pilot studies. However, it has higher risk of bias. So first, convenience sampling, and the second one is the purposive sampling. So here, you deliberately select participants based on specific qualities they possess. For example, if you're studying educational leadership, you might only interview principals with over 15 years of experience. So, mag-handpick ka ngayon ng mga participants for a specific reason, hindi yung kung sino lang yung available. The third one is the quota sampling, similarly to stratified sampling. However, this is without the random selection. So you identify the subgroups and set a quota for each. For example, you might aim for 50 male teachers and 50 female teachers, and you use the convenience sampling to fill those quotas. So finally, panghuli po na gusto kong bigay na example is the snowball sampling. So this is an ideal method for hard-to-reach population. So for example, you start with a few participants who meet your criteria. And then you ask them to refer other people, o baka may kilala kayo that also fit that criteria. So the sample grows organically like snowball. So what are the big takeaways for the implication for our research regarding of what we have discussed? So first, the sampling strategy na pipiliin natin has a profound implication sa validity ng ating mga studies. First, it impacts the internal validity. So which is about the trustworthiness of our findings. Of course, we are making research, we are making dissertation, and first and foremost, gusto natin ng validity. Kasi kung without validity, walang acceptance. And a well-designed probability sample will help us to reduce selection bias, which is a major threat to the study of internal validity. Kasi yun yung magka-question sa validity ng ginagawa natin. Selection bias. Second, and perhaps most importantly for quantitative studies, it impacts the external validity naman. So this refers to the extent of which you can generalize your findings to a larger population. So probability sampling is the cornerstone of strong external validity because of what? It aims to create a sample that is a true microcosm of the population you're studying. So for our doctoral work sa gagawin nating mga studies, or congratulations sa mga tapos na, this is a robust justification for a choosing sampling method. It is a clear understanding of our limitation. It is just as important as the method itself. So to quickly summarize, let us remember the core difference of probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is about generalization and also statistical power. However, for non-probability sampling is about practicality. Kung ano yung mas madali, okay, ano yung mas konektado sa purpose. So, yung mga choice natin will definitely define the scope and the credibility of our research. So, thank you and God bless.